Hello everyone, today we will be exploring options, dimension, and dimension aligned to recreate several shapes from specified measurements, then measuring them to confirm their accuracy. So, to get started, we're going to use the picture command. So I'm going to go ahead and type picture, and grab that. I'm going to bring in this picture, and I think I'll lock it too. So this picture is just, I could open this up in a separate window if I wanted to in the Windows Photo Viewer, but it's nice to have it right here in Rhino to easily reference and work from. So I am going to do this first one. I'm going to use the rectangle command, and I'm going to click anywhere, it doesn't really matter, and then I'm going to type 5.0990, 5.0990 by 3.993. Perfect. And I don't have this picture scaled the same way, so the scaling looks a little different. That doesn't matter. Okay, I could, if I wanted to, rescale this image to the grid, but it doesn't matter. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is use the dimension tool. So I can click on linear dimension right here, or I can type DIM into the command bar. Now I can snap to my object and drag out some dimensions. So let's redo those on a different layer, just so we can have that organized. And we can see immediately that these look very different. And in fact, it's saying that this box is not 5.0990, it's actually 5.1. This is something I wish Rhino gave some kind of signifier of, that this is rounded. This is rounded to 2 decimal places, same for this. So we can change that in Rhino options. Rhino options is this little gear right here, or we can type options into the command bar. This allows us to manipulate almost all of what Rhino is, the interface, how it works, etc., to better suit what we're working on. So for this, we're going to go to annotation styles. Inch decimal is what I'm working in. I'm going to edit that. And right in here, the first thing we'll change is length units, and I'm going to change that to 4 decimal places. More than 4 doesn't really have a point in my particular case, because I work with Rhino primarily in collaboration with digital fabrication, and none of the machines that I work with have a higher repeatability than 4 digits. So I'm going to leave that as it is. And then right here, I'll hit apply. So you can see now that we have 4 digits. So that's good, perfect measurements now. But these dimensions are still huge. So we can change that just by adjusting the model space scale. So I'm going to, I think I'll do 1.5 and hit apply. Maybe that's a teensy bit small. I'll go with 2. Okay, so now we have recreated it. So I'm going to now initiate the circle command. And with the circle command, I could either, after I select the center point, I could do it from radius or diameter. And I have both of those measurements, so I could do either or. I'm going to do radius in this case, and I'll do 1.7506. Now let's take a couple measurements. Oh, I need to change this layer. Okay, so we'll use the dimension tool again, and I'll measure from center to midpoint. Perfect. And then midpoint to endpoint. Perfect. Actually, very slightly different. That's probably just from when I created these shapes originally. I created them without grid snap-on. So if we were to measure them with full accuracy, well, it's not possible to do it full accuracy, but with many, many, many digits, we would see that something made off the grid is completely arbitrary. So we would have a great number of digits, and that discrepancy that we're seeing here is probably due to that. So I'm going to go back to 4 digits. Okay. Now we'll create this star. So star is within the polygon command, and then you can click star. The first measurement is going to be 2.0736. And I want it to be straight up and down, just as that other star is. And then the other digit, which is measuring from center point to the dip in the star points, is 1.4399. Okay, so let's use the dimension tool again. We're going to measure from center point. I'm going to make my life a little bit easier. I did it in another layer again. I'm going to make a point, and I'm just going to make this point in the center so I can more easily reference it than hovering close to the border to get that center snap. You can see I did the same thing here. Okay, so we use the dimension command. I'm going to go back to the command I'm using for dimensions, and I can go from here to here, and we can see perfect 2.0736. Okay, and now we can measure from here to here. So I'll use the dimension tool again, and you can see that this is not working. I can measure here, or I could measure it like this. And the reason this is not working is because the dimension tool only works orthogonally, locked into the axes. So I can measure, which is good in some cases, is what you want in some cases, even if the 2 points that you're measuring are not orthogonal. So right here, I'm measuring the y dimension between this point and this point. And with this one, I'm measuring the x dimension between this point and this point. But what if you want to measure in a straight line between those 2 points? You can use aligned dimension for that. Dim aligned is the command, how you type in the command. So I can go from point to point here, and we can see that now we have our measurement. Perfect. Okay, this one's kind of an interesting one. So you'll notice that we're creating all of these geometries. We're creating all of these geometries by using a command and typing in the particular numbers that we're working from. We're going to do the same thing with this one. So I'm going to start this anywhere, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do 1.2917. And you can see with the polyline command, sorry, I didn't mention that, I'm using the polyline command. 1.2917. The polyline command, after I put in the measurement, that's not all it needs. It also needs the orientation of the line that you're creating. So I can create it any which way. All of the line segments in this shape are orthogonal. So I can use the shift key to help me lock things into orthogonal movement. So I'll do that, I'll click, and then I'll put in my next measurement, 0.9348. Hold shift, 2.8214. Shift, 4.4701. And I'll just keep working through this. Perfect. So there we have our shape. Let's create our dimensions. When you're working on a more complicated, I suppose, shape like this, and you're annotating it, you want to have, you want to be a little mindful of where you're putting these dimensions. I'm going to put it up inside here so I can put this one outside of it. It's not right or wrong answers. I could have put this one inside of it too, actually. That looks better, so that's what I'll do. And this one I'm going to put on the outside of it then. Stick to the outside for here. And this one doesn't quite fit within, which is a little annoying. But that's fine. And I'll put this one on the outside. Cool. So there we have our dimensions and our perfectly recreated geometries. I'll see you next time.